Lesson 4 of Chapter 9 deals with the area of parallelograms and trapezoids. You've learned in previous lessons the area of triangles, squares, and rectangles. Now we're going to look at a parallelogram. First, you need to understand what a parallelogram is. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral that has two sets of parallel lines, so that this line is parallel to that line and this line is parallel to that line. So the opposite sides are parallel. In order to find the area of a parallelogram, you take the length of one of the sides and you have to look at the altitude, and that's a line that's perpendicular from one parallel line to the next. Okay, so it would be the length, or they call it in the book the base, times the height, or many books call it the altitude. So the area of a parallelogram, and I abbreviate parallelogram that way, is the length of the base times its height or altitude. Okay? And in the book, if you look at Theorem 40, it says the area of a parallelogram is the product of any base times its height. And in the proof, they drew a diagonal. A diagonal goes from non-corresponding sides. And we're going to learn more about diagonals of parallelograms in the future. But if you'll notice, you actually, a diagonal creates two triangles. And which doesn't matter with the area because you're just going to do the altitude times the base. But if you had the length of the diagonal, then you could calculate the length of the base. All right? And Theorem 41 deals with trapezoids, whereas a parallelogram has two sets of parallel sides. A trapezoid has one set of parallel sides, and the other two sides are not equal. All right, so if we said this is side A and B, you take the bases. In a trapezoid, you have two bases. The lines that are parallel are actually called the bases. So this could be base 1 and that could be base 2. You're going to take the average of the bases, so it would be A plus B divided by 2, and then it would be times the altitude or the height. So effectively what you're doing with a trapezoid is you're adding the two bases, taking half of those, the sum of the two bases, and multiplying that times the altitude to arrive at the area of a trapezoid. So in Theorem 41 it says the area of a trapezoid is half the product of its altitude and the sum of its bases. So the way the book says it is 1/2 of the altitude times the sum of the bases. But effectively what you're doing is you're averaging these two sides, the two bases, all right? And again, if you drew a diagonal, then you would divide it into two triangles, a diagonal would. Okay? We'll go over some of these problems in class tomorrow.